Multiple files can be opened in Vim from within the same tab page and or in different tabs. First, let's see few definitions. Buffer is the in-memory text of a file. Window is a viewport on a buffer. Tab page is a collection of windows. So in this case, this entire screen is the window for buffers.md. If I use the split command and open another file, you will see there are two windows now. So this window is for save.md and this window is for buffers.md. Vertical split is also possible. So now there are three windows in the same tab page. We'll see about splits later. Let me just quit this window and let me show that the same buffer can be opened in different windows if needed. So buffers.md is in this window. You can also open a copy in another window. So you can have different areas highlighted in different windows. So I can be at the end of the file here. I can be at the start of the file here and so on. So let me quit that window as well. Let us see some commands to work with buffers. :E refreshes the current buffer. E is short for edit. For example, if the contents of this file has been changed by an external program, you can use :E to refresh the buffer contents as well. Another use case is the syntax highlighting when you move to another part of the file may be a little wrong. So in such cases, using :E can help. Next, let us use this command to open another file in the same window. So currently buffers.md is present in this window. And now I'm going to open save.md in the same window. I can go back to buffers.md using the file name, or I can use one of these two shortcuts. So :E followed by hash will switch back to the previous buffer. So previous buffer in our case currently is save.md. So if I use e hash, it should go to save.md. If I use that command again, it should go back to the previous buffer, which is buffers.md. Note that the space between e and hash is optional. You can also use Ctrl+6 or Ctrl and caret key to switch back to the previous buffer. There is one difference between these two shortcuts. We'll see an example later. Let me just use Ctrl+6. It should take me back to save.md. And if I use Ctrl+6 again, I'll get back to buffers.md. So we have opened a lot of buffers so far. Let us see a list of all those buffers using the buffers command. So this no name is the second tab. A buffer opened there doesn't have a name yet, that's why it's no name. Buffers.md is the first buffer which I opened, and then during the example so far I also opened save.md and quit.md. So these are all the buffers I have opened so far. The hash here indicates the buffer I'll switch to when I use Ctrl+6 or e hash. And you will see numbers as well. So we can use these numbers when we use these commands. So let us see an example. If I use #4, it should take me to quit.md. If I use #3, it should take me to save.md. I can go to the first buffer by using #1. Let me show the buffer list again. So if you want to sequentially switch buffers, then you can use bn and bp, which are buffer next and buffer previous. So if you are on 2 and want to go to 3, you can just use bn. If you are on 4 and want to go back to 3, you can use bp. These commands will automatically rewind. So if you are on the first buffer and try to go back to previous buffer, it will go to the last buffer. If you are on the last one and want to go to the next buffer, it will go to the first buffer. So let's see an example. I am currently in buffers.md, and if I try to use bp, it will go to the last buffer since buffers.md is the first buffer. If I use bp again, it should take me to the previous buffer in the list, which is save.md. Let me go back to the first buffer. You will not be able to switch buffers in the same window if there are unsaved changes. So in such cases, you can either use the setting hidden if you want to switch even with unsaved changes, or you can use the hide command. So hide, edit, and the file name will allow you to open that buffer even if there are unsaved changes in the current buffer. So let's see an example. I'm going to make some changes. Without saving, I'm going to try to switch to another buffer. So I should get an error since I have not saved the changes. Let me use hide command. Now I should be able to go to this particular file even though the contents of this buffer has not been saved yet. I can also show the difference between e-hash and Ctrl+6 shortcuts from this buffer. So if I use e-hash, it should go back to the previous buffer, but the previous buffer is unnamed, so I'll get an error. Instead, if I use Ctrl+6, it will switch back. You can use the auto-write option if you want to automatically save changes when moving to another buffer. These are just some of the commands to work with buffer. There are a lot more details and features, so you can go through the help topics 22.4 buffer-hidden for user and reference manuals